I am a graduate of the Los Angeles Violence Intervention Training Academy, La Vida. You know that I graduated from American program when I was in prison back in like 1993 or 92 or something like that. I studied the study toward African American redevelopment. I worked for GRID for 3 years from 2015 to 2018. So as you can see, I can keep going. The list goes on and on about my credentials, and I can really go on and on and on about what qualifies me to actually be a person of authority on this subject. But the reality of the matter is, what really qualifies me to be an authority on the subject is the fact that I've been a gang member since 1976, and it's now 2019. I have been a member of the Rolling 20 Bloods, that is. I have been a member of Rolling 20 since 1976, for over 40 years, 40 plus years. But my point that I'm making as I'm reaching out to you and I'm in your ear space, it's not all about the glamorization, the exploitation, or anything like that about gang life. It's basically about the education and information, because of the fact that sometimes I feel that if words aren't spoken, if the proper things aren't said, then we're at a loss, because of the fact that we all got to do our part. And when it comes down to gang intervention, man, I got to commend a lot of these brothers that work in that field. Gang intervention is a hectic field, man, because of the fact that sometimes you're going to find yourself on the scene and you're going to know the person that's being killed out here. And you got to do your job. If you're working grid like I did, then you first hand on the scene. You right there on the ground, 10 toes down. And I gotta commend them, because the Bloods and Crips and everybody else, the Mexicans and whoever else in LA is working toward peace is needed, man. Because peace is never enough. You see what I'm saying? And the people out there that's listening, if you can hear me, you gotta have an understanding of the fact that there are people that are willing to walk through live gunfire just to save the lives of your children. But we as men, we got to step up and we got to be men. And when I say we got to be men, I mean that we got to start embracing these young people and mentoring them. We got to start putting something on their minds, something greater than all this BS that they get bombarded with. The drugs, the exploitation of the old way that things were. Now, if they want to live up to something, let's not live up to somebody that's been in prison all their life. Let's live up to somebody that's, a carpenter that's been in the union for the last 20 years, just bought a home, just taking care of a family. Let's start trying to reinvent these ideas, because of the fact that that's what we need. That's very important. These young people are looking up to us, and I say this because I was one of them. I was one of the misguided and the misled. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to go to prison. It was glorified and it was glamorized. I had homies coming about the penitentiary showing me pictures of what they was doing on the yard, and I couldn't wait to get to that yard. When I got to the yard, I thought I graduated. I didn't realize that I was set up for failure. But they didn't know no better, because of the fact that there wasn't nobody around to teach them anything better. Then at the same time, we got to take into consideration and understanding the fact that a lot of the game that we have been introduced to, this has all been a lot of government agitation, because of the fact that you look at the Bloods and the Crips, and you look at the gang war throughout the 80s. You look at the great amounts of money that came through the drugs and that was pumped into the gang wars. You look at the guns that were pumped into the streets of Los Angeles. See, don't nobody talk about that there, but there was a great deal of government agitation. Then something to take into consideration also is the fact that, all wars must be funded. So if there wasn't a war in LA, then you tell me how did so many people get killed during the 1980s and the 1990s? The United States government funded the war that went on in Central America between the Sandinistas and the Contras. And so therefore, if they did that, they funded that with money that came out of Los Angeles, that was made through the cocaine trade, through the rock cocaine trade and the drug epidemic and everything that it came to be here. But now they can make an admission of that. You know what I'm saying? But they won't covertly talk about how the drugs were pumped into Los Angeles and they funded this war. You see what I'm saying? Reagan and Noriega and Bush and all them there, they don't talk about the responsibility that they must have for the thousands of crack babies that were born. You know what I'm saying? The mothers being addicted to drugs. Nobody talks about that there. The mothers they spawning children that were addicted to drugs. You see, and I say this here because I was a victim of the war on drugs. See, I wasn't a drug user, but I did sell drugs. Somewhere through here, somebody had an ingenious idea. And within that ingenious idea, what they thought was they can pump these drugs into the city, they can pump these drugs into our communities. And for those that don't become the consumers, they'll become the dealers. And that's just what happened. You know, I'm a person that I've been in prison multiple times for sales of cocaine. And, you know, the only thing about me is I didn't let the stigma keep me down. I didn't let anything hold me down as far as trying to keep me out of the loop of work. I believe in rehabilitation. I believe that I can be anything that I want to be. And that level of thinking and thought is what got me far beyond that. But it took me a long time to get out of the state of mind of thinking that I was a convict. It took me a long time to get out of the state of mind of thinking that prison is a place where I needed to be. You understand what I'm saying? It's just the same as I am still a member of the neighborhood. I'm still from the set. I'm still active, but I'm not active in a destructive way. I'm active productively and constructively. And the thing about being actively in a productive and constructive manner is the fact that I'm there to be of assistance to anybody and everybody that needs my assistance in a positive way. You know, I get up every morning and go to work. I get up every morning to do what I got to do to be a man. At the same time, I know that indirectly I got to be an example to a lot of the young people that have never seen what a man does because of the fact that they've been raised in this dysfunctional society within the streets of South Central Los Angeles and in its gang culture. But also, directly, I do my best to try to mentor my young people and try to give them some understanding. Because I can't stop you from being from the set. I can't guide you away from that. That might be all you got. Your identity might have been your passage to manhood, your rights to manhood. But at the same time, I can tell you what a man is supposed to do. I can lead by example, and I can demonstrate to you what a man does. So, you know what I'm saying? And I say all that there because of the fact that once we discover who we are, and once we come into manhood, we come into our rites of passage as men, then the next thing we'll do is we'll come to understandings in terms that in order to be men, we got to come to terms of understanding being peaceful and living amongst each other now and allowing each other the right to live. Because one thing that we all have is a right to be left alone. And if we're all granted that specific right, then let each and every individual be able to have that right. I believe that to kill one black man is to kill an entire generation of black people because of the fact that that's the seed that's never spawned, and that's the birth of the children that has been just thrown away. You know, we've killed some of I believe in my mind that we have killed some of our greats. I can believe in my time that so many people have been killed that we have had to have killed some of our greats. I believe that we've killed some Malcolm X's and some Martin Luther Kings. I believe that we've done such a great detrimental harm to our society that we've lost some greats that we will never be able to get back. And it's nothing to be proud of, man. As a man, I look back and I look at the culture, man, and I have a black son, and I look at my son and I said to myself, damn, man, my son is going to be doomed. And I said to myself, because of the fact that if he got to live through what I got to live through, there's no way in the world that I would want my son to have to come up and carry a gun for fear of having to shoot somebody that's trying to shoot him, go through the prisons, any of that. When I was in prison in 1988, I was in the Administrative Segregation Unit at Soledad State Prison, called CTF, Correctional Training Facility. I was in Central, and I was in the hole there. And the thing about being there was that I looked at how they treated us, how the correctional officer treated us as inmates. How degrading it was just to be in prison, how degrading it was just to be isolated and segregated in the prison. I looked at all that, and I swore that if I had a son, I wouldn't let my son have to live through that. And I'm glad today that my son has taken his own route in the world because of the fact that I'm not worried about him having to kill nobody. I'm not worried about nobody looking for him to kill him, because he doesn't have he's not out here claiming a community. He doesn't claim a neighborhood. He doesn't gang bang. He doesn't do anything that's going to draw these elements around him. And so therefore, I mean, I can say that was one great accomplishment, you know. But I can't just look at my son and not want that for your son, because it takes a village to raise a child. So if it takes that village to raise a child, then your son and my son are all the same. We all have to be men within this. We got to stop the killing. We got to put the guns down. You know what I'm saying? The people that's involved in this here that understand and know. I sat in a room with some reputable Bloods and reputable Crips, and we all were able to sit down as men. We were all able to overlook all of this here because of the fact that we have understandings that, first and foremost, there were a lot of people hurting this on all sides. Secondly, we all signed up for it. So if we signed up for it, then we already knew what was going to happen. Death was something we had to accept early on. But I'm telling you, young people, that don't mean that you got to be willing to accept death. You can do something else with your life and be something greater and something better. You can come back to the community and you can be a great example. You can be something positive and something constructive. You can still be from the set. I'm not going to sit there and talk against being from the set, but I'm going to tell you can recondition, retrain, re-educate, and take some of these young people's minds, and you can reinvent them. And you can create a whole nother group. You can create a social group that's doing good stuff in the community because there ain't nothing wrong with it. There's no shame in doing anything good and positive in your community. Take it upon yourself to make your community a place to live, a place to stay, a place that's safe, because that's what we need. We don't need the gunfire. We don't need people out there hurting each other. We don't need our families to be living in danger and be worrying about our children as they walk the streets. And I say it like that because of the fact that we live in a war zone. South Central Los Angeles is a war zone. And you know there's corners that can't be turned if you've been here. You know that there's streets that can't be walked down if you've been here. You know that in a lot of these communities, you have to be in fear of the people in the community and the people that's not from that community coming through to shoot people that's from that community. So that means you can't win either way it goes. But by the same token, what you can do is do your part to educate. Do your part to be a part of the solution and not the problem. See, because of the fact that that's what we all have to work on. We have to get together. We have to build. We have to pull our minds together and we create that mastermind group that can come up with the solutions and the resolution to these problems here. Because if we don't do it, nobody will. It ain't nobody else's problems. I was in a meeting with Minister Tony Muhammad, Khalid Shaw, Steve Harvey showed up, and Master P showed up. The funny thing to me about this was that people talked to Master P and Steve Harvey like they had the magic wand that they could wave and make all these problems go away and stop the killing overnight. But what they didn't understand was the fact that these men are willing to be of aid and assistance to us within our own problems. But these men come from other places where they got their own problems. These men are in their lives to the extent to where the problems that plague us, they really don't relate to, because of the fact that wherever they come from, they got to deal with the problems there. There's death and destruction everywhere, and the world is a ghetto. So these men have their own ghettos that they got to go back to. Not saying they're as multimillionaires that they're still living in the ghettos, but I'm just talking about, we're all attached to home. And there's not too many places where black men come from as home to where there's not death and destruction, murder and mayhem going on in the streets. By the same token, by there being murder and mayhem going on in the streets, that means you'll be dedicated to stopping it in the place that you call home. Because 9 times out of 10, that's where your family is at. And that was the thing about them. But when they walked into the room, everyone talked to them as if they had the magic wand. They could wave and make it all go away. And it was funny to me when I sat back and I thought about it and I looked at it and I said to myself, there's no way in this world that these men could actually do anything for our problems. Because being these are our problems, that means that the solutions are up to us. We can take on all of the assistance and all of the aid that they're willing to give. But when it comes down to it, they can't get in these streets like we can. They can't come in these hoods like we can. They can't talk to these people like we can. They don't have the respect that we have. And that goes a long way because of the fact that you're able to talk to young people and you're able to have them to see your vision. And that's an interesting thing because of the fact that the vision of peace is a great one. And some people don't even realize it takes a lot more to be peaceful than it does to be violent. You can go about this lifetime and you can take it on a level of being peaceful. It's going to take a whole lot more because when you go to your people and you start talking peace, they're going to look at you funny. But if you're a man, if you're really who you say you are, if you're really down with this like you say you are, then you can be who you want to be, and they're going to respect you either way it goes. Because if they respect you, they respect you, and they're not going to sit there and look at you funny because there ain't nothing funny to be looked at for. When you speak of life, we all are living life. You see, we all are raising children. So when it comes down to raising these children, raising these families, and keeping them safe, that's something as human beings that on common ground we can stand, and we can all come to these agreements of understanding. I think that's about it for now, though. I'll be back to y'all. Y'all check out my y'all check me out on my podcast. You know what I'm saying? Y'all check me out on YouTube. You know, MaddRonald.com Global Media. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook at Madd Ronald Rolling. You can find me on Instagram, Madd_Ronald_Rolling. You can find me on YouTube, MaddRonald.com Global Media. You can find me on Twitter, OG Madd Ronald. All right, y'all. I wish everybody health, wealth, peace, and prosperity. Y'all have a good one. Y'all stay safe. Until next time. And tune in to the podcast and tune in to the YouTube channel, because there's going to be a lot more to come, and we're going to get into this and we're going to come up with some solutions.